Hello friends, so today I'm going to share my interview experience with Cognizant for Reactjs skill. So I entered an interview for the Reactjs skill for the April first week, and then I got the second round invite by the third week itself. So I'm just going to share my interview experience and the questions over here. So I attended the interview for the 6 years of experience level. So a lot of questions were asked. So for the first technical round, it was a telephonic round, and it took around like 30 to 40 minutes. And the second round was a video technical round. So just let's go through the questions. So the first question is like use of React dot pure component. And when I was explaining it, then he was asking like its life cycle method by default it is getting used. And the second question is like use of super keyword in the constructor, why we are actually using it. And then the next question, explain HOC. With the HOC, any of the HOC example which you have used in your project. Then difference between state and props. How we are actually, like what is the differences, like 2 to 3 differences we can get. Then can we update the state inside render method? So that was the other question following that. And if we try to update the state in render method, then what actually happens? So the error which comes out, you can actually give it as the answer. Then list out the life cycle methods which we are aware of. So I was not aware of the complete life cycle methods, so I just gave few of them. And then he asked the next question he asked was like why get derived state from props life cycle method is being used. If we can actually like use it in other way, then why this life cycle method is specifically used. Then the next question, use of component did update. Like there will be like some particular questions will come up when we are actually answering it. So from the like project experience, what you have faced and what actual comments you are actually, for what purpose you have given for API fetch in this component did update. So he asked like that. Now, the how to handle infinite loop and component did update. If you face an infinite loop while updating the state, so how we will handle with respect to the component did update. Then usage of error boundaries and lifecycle methods we are used in it. Then what are synthetic events? Then the next question was of difference between controlled and uncontrolled components. So we may have to give some examples as well. How it actually like what all you have faced when you were working in project. What all things you have used with the controlled and uncontrolled component. Then the next was like use of key attribute in React. And then the next question came from use of fragments. So in the key attributes section we will explain about the list and all. So in the case of use of fragments, we explain why it, like in the tables, and because of the no new nodes needs to be implemented, so those things we will use it. And then the next question came up like what all attributes we can use in fragments, which is just a key. So you can give the answers in that way. Then the next question, like what all prop validations we have used in your code. Like one of prop types, whatever you have used, you can mention it over there. How to implement component will unmount using hooks. So in use effect, how we will use it, we can give the answer. Then the next question, like purpose of use callback hook, like why it is being used, when how we have used it in your project. Then explain context API. So how we are using it, how props drilling, everything you can mention it over there. Then unit testing used and how you get element by class name. So this was a question from the testing side. So I told like I'm using just with RTL. And so the next question was like how you get element by its class name. Then the project, the questions went on to the Redux. So explain the flow of Redux was the first one. Then how multiple stores are handled. So Redux will have the single store. So how can we like handle multiple stores, like flux of those things? If you know, you can mention it. Then the next one of usage of Redux thumb, why we are using it actually. Then parameters passed and create store. What all things like combine reduce or apply middle, anything, everything you can mention it. Then use of doc type. Then once that was over, then the questions were started for the HTML. So use of doc type and what will happen if we don't use it. Then what is meta tag? Why we are using it? Then what is semantic elements, formatting tags, layout elements, and usage of area label, everything. Like a sort of questions were asked. Then comes with the CSS. So what all positionings we are having in CSS, and what is the difference of absolute and fixed. Then usage of box sizing. What is the use of this box sizing? Then difference between border and outline. Then I was asked for naming few pseudo elements, and I was asked for giving media query syntax. Even though it was telephonic interview, I was asked to provide the syntax just by oral. Then explain the like flex box, how we are implementing and what all parameters are there, how we can arrange the elements. Those a brief outline we have to give. Then any experience if we have in SaaS and all, they can mention it over there. So that was from the CSS. Then like I was having experience in Material UI, so we just asked what are the alert types I have used in Material UI, and then how to add the custom stylings using class names and all. So that was the other question, like came up. Then the questions was to us JavaScript. So what all data types you are aware of, and like what is hoisting, and it went on a little bit deep, like war, let, and const. So how it differs in hoisting for them, and difference between undeclared and undefined. So you can brief out over there. Then difference between set timeout and set interval, and how we can actually clear them, like clear timeout, clear interval is there, right? So you can mention that as well. Then he asked me about what is anonymous function, and what are the advantages of arrow function than the regular functions. Okay. Then usage of spread operator, like all the like for cloning the object, everything you can mention there. Again, the next question was for object destructuring. So we can give the example for use case, for array destructuring, and then use of async await than promises. So first he asked me what is async await, and then he asked me what is the advantage of using it than the JavaScript promises. Then the next question was for use of generators. And then next question for difference between forage and map, how it actually differs and what you are actually using it, and why you are preferring that method. So such questions went on. Then JavaScript array method to add an element to second and fourth position, like splice and all. So a few questions on that. So these were the first technical round interview. It actually went on quite long, and the question even for the from the answers itself, he was asking a little bit of like secondary questions as well. So that was the first round, but I hadn't answered few of them, but still I got cleared for the first round. So the second round was scheduled for me in the second week itself, and it was completely video technical round. So after the brief introduction, I was asked to detail about my project, which I recently handled. So what all roles and responsibilities I handled, what all issues I faced, how we have handled it, what are the improvisations I have done to my project, and what you expect you would have done. So those type of questions were asked. And then coming to the like real work experiences, like he asked few of the questions like how different time zones are handled, because in server, like we are from different areas we are actually we are the clients will be consuming these APIs and all, right? So how the time zones are handled in React project, how we are implementing it in CSS, like, and then can we have multiple render methods? So that was the other question. In how many ways page responsiveness can be handled, like viewport, media queries, everything, like we can you are aware of, you can mention it. Then how React is better than Angular, like any other framework, like how React is better from others. And then advantages of like so I was asked which component you are actually comfortable with. Then I told functional. Then why you are why you feel like that is advantages from the class component, and any cons for class component than functional component. So such questions was. Then how React actually works. So you can mention the virtual DOM, virtualization, reconciliation, diffing algorithm, all those things. Then what is XHR? Like developer tools, we can find that XML HTTP request in network tag, right? So how the status code responsive for status code you can check. So actually like he is just checking for the like whether we have the we are aware of the developer tools, we are aware of working on it. And then how we can find session details like in the authentication session, like if you want to check for that, so how you access and where you can find the details, and then how you debug your code. So such things were asked. And then the next is a little bit like web storages you have used or you are aware of. Then type of errors like you have faced. Then usage of Windows history in routing. So how it let Windows history replace push those things we can mention. Then sample code for media query. So it's like any media query, the simple media query in CSS they're asking. So otherwise, you can actually like mention that use theme, use media query hook. Using that also you can mention. And then some coding questions were asked, like a couple of coding questions on like some numbers were given, and I was asked to filter it. I was asked to find. So using these array methods, some questions were asked. And then the difference between use callback and use memo, and then how data is passed to like in React project, Redux context API, we are actually sharing the data, right? So how we are actually passing to parent, how we are actually passing to child, how we are actually passing to siblings. So those were asked. And then the difference between use state and use ref. Like I was asked to list different hooks I was aware of, and then he asked me about the difference between use state and use ref. So like that. And then I was asked to write some code for the promise as well, which would give a hello each second on success, and by one time like for failure. How I was asked for writing a promise for that. Then I was asked to explain PWA and how like service worker registering, that those things we can mention is so how we are actually implementing it in our React project. So those things we can mention. And then how security performance optimizations is achieved. So that is like being an experienced candidate for 6 years, so is checking how well you can actually improvise yourself in the like whenever you're can whether we are able to handle the project yourself. So that's what being checked. And then the ES6 features, later ES6 features, all of them like what all we are aware of, and it was just asking for each one of them, like objective structuring, spread and rest operator, arrow function. So just we were a brief go through was done, like the checks was done. So that's it. So that was the questions I had faced. Like I felt like the second round was actually comparatively better than the first round. The first round he had covered like almost all the areas, and it was very deeply went through. So this was my experience. So for more videos, please subscribe my channel. I will be like I'm in case like for attending the other interview. So if I get more questions, I will be posting it. So please do subscribe my channel for more videos. Thank you.